Hey guys, my name is Lalit Bessi, and in this whole video, I'm going to talk about how to create a fully functional, responsive website. As you can see, this is the website that we are going to create in this whole video. We have our app and buttons. We have our nav bar. We have navigation slide carousels, and we have FAQs, contact us, footer, and all that stuff. And as you can see, this website as responsive by nature because bootstrap is responsive by default. So as you can see cool stuff. So we're gonna be creating all this inside this video. uh, if you know about bootstrap, that's good. But if you haven't been introduced to bootstrap, you can check out my whole bootstrap tutorials. I've created the whole series before this video. You can check that out. That will be a great help. But if you don't know about bootstrap and you know a little about HTML and CSS, that will work fine as well. So I hope you like this video. And yeah. So as inside my text editor, as you can see, I have two files. First one is template.html. You can have this file. You can create your own file, whatever you name it. It's up to you. It is a template.html, and you can download this. It is inside my project files. I have these project files set up just for you. We have some images and two files, and we're going to be using these. You can download this project files by going inside the description box below, and yeah, it's free, it's safe and secure. So first one is template.html, and we're going to be using this to create a website. And second one is wiredwiki.html. This is the whole website that we are going to create, as I have shown you in this whole browser. So let's get started by how to download and install Bootstrap on your system. We have two ways from downloading and installation of Bootstrap. The first one is easy one, which require an internet connection to check Bootstrap in a browser, and the second one is you have to download the whole package, and it doesn't require any internet connection. So if you wanna see the both installation process, you can check out my previous tutorials on Bootstrap. But in this video, I'm going to talk about how to install a Bootstrap using the first one with the internet connection, and that's very, very, very easy. So let's get started. How to install Bootstrap on your system. So as you can see, I have my main template.html, and this is from the project files. You can download again from the description. So it's a basic HTML document. It's created with HTML, head and body and all that. Now I'm gonna quickly install Bootstrap in this, and after that I'm gonna start creating a website. So for installing Bootstrap, go to getting started /hash download, or you can just click this getting started tab, and inside this scroll down a little bit. There is this Bootstrap CDN. So you have to copy these three links. So I'm gonna copy these first two. Copy these, Control C, and paste it inside my head section. I'm gonna go again to the Bootstrap and copy the third link inside at the end of the body section. So I'm gonna save this, and there's one more link, one more jQuery link that you need to download. Copy. So go to Google and type jQuery latest version download, and you can click on the first link, which is jQuery.com/download. And scroll down a little bit, go to jQuery 2.x and click on this download the compressed production jQuery 2.1.1. Copy this link and go to your Sublime Text or whatever you're using. Inside the body tag, before the third link that you pasted, I'm going to create a script tag, and source will be that code that you have pasted. Okay, so as you can see, I have copied the link of jQuery script source. This is the source, and a closed script tag. Save this, and inside the body tag, now I can start creating a website using Bootstrap. Okay, so that's it. You don't have to do anything else. Now we can start creating a website from scratch using a Bootstrap. Okay, so as you can see, I have my template.html opened right here. And so I'm gonna create a nav bar. First of all, this is a WiredWiki app website, and first of all we need the nav bar, and then the header, and then whatever we want to add. So inside Bootstrap, we create a nav bar using a nav tag nav with a class of nav bar and nav bar inverse, and we have another class of nav bar fixed top, and I'm gonna give it an ID of my navbar. Close this, close the navbar. Okay, so first class is navbar. It allows you to create the navbar. Then second class is navbar inverse. In Bootstrap we have a two type of navbar. First one is the default white one, and the second one is the black one. The black one is created by this class navbar inverse. So I'm gonna create that black navbar, and another one is navbar fixed top. When you scroll down and up inside a website, there are sometimes that you have seen that the navbar is fixed at its particular point. In Bootstrap, you can do that using this class navbar fixed top. So inside the nav bar, I'm going to create a div with a class of container, and I'm going to put everything inside my navbar inside this container. Let me just close this. Okay, so inside the container, I'm going to create another div with a class of navbar header. Now, a navbar header, it's a class inside a Bootstrap. You put your website logo, website a name, a product name, whatever you're selling or using or creating inside this navbar. So I'm going to show you what I mean. Inside this navbar header, I'm going to create a button, that toggle button. If you have seen my previous tutorials, you will know what I mean. Inside button, I'm going to create a type button of button, and class is navbar toggle, and we have another class of data toggle equals collapse. I'm going to talk about these classes a little bit after I finish this, and we have another class of data target equals, and I'm going to give it an ID of navbar collapse. Okay, so inside this button, I'm going to create those icon bar that you see inside those buttons. I'm going to show you in a bit what I mean. So I'm going to create a span tag with a class of icon bar, and I'm going to copy these, save this, preview in the browser, and as you can see, this is our navbar inverse, the black navbar. And if I do this, as you can see, this is our button. These 4 lines are created using this span class of icon bar. These are icon bar. You can add as much as you want. I prefer 3 or 4. And so I'm going to talk about these class. The button type equals button, and the class is navbar toggle. This data toggle is collapse. It allows you to collapse whenever a guy is using a website on an tab, or I say phone or whatever. He can collapse it, or he can collapse the navbar by clicking this button using this data toggle collapse. And we have data target navbar collapse. I'm going to talk about this data target after a bit. So after this, I'm going to create my brand logo or whatever. So after button, I'm going to create an anchor tag with a reference of nothing, and you can put whatever your reference, whatever link you want, and I'm going to give it a class of navbar brand, and I'm going to give the name WiredWiki or WiredWiki app, whatever. So I'm going to close this anchor tag, and I'm going to save this, preview in the browser. As you can see, this is my navbar brand name or whatever. So after the brand name, let me just close this. Okay, so after the navbar header, I'm gonna create those collapsible items as you have seen. When I drag this inside a tab or an iPhone or smartphone, I'm gonna create those items inside this button that will collapse, and if you click it they will appear, and if you click them again they will collapse. So I'm gonna create those lists inside the header. So I am this is the navbar header. This is the navbar header. I don't want to include this inside the navbar header, so I'm gonna create another div after the navbar header. So div with a class of collapse, and we have navbar collapse. This allows you to collapse the navbar. So I'm gonna close this div tag, and inside this I'm gonna create my unordered list with a class of navbar. Bootstrap, it's all about class. You can if you can remember the class, whatever what class you have to use, you can do almost anything inside Bootstrap. So inside this class unordered list, I'm gonna create a list items. So li with a anchor tag, I'm gonna make those link with a reference of nothing, and I'm going to create a 4-5 sections inside this website. For example, for one for feedback, one for contact us, one for gallery, one for form. First one is feedback. Whenever the guy clicks on the feedback, it jumps to the feedback section inside the page. So I'm going to talk about that later. I'm going to close this, and I'm going to name it feedback. Close the anchor tag, copy this. Next one is for the gallery. Next one is for the features. Next one is for frequently asked question, and last one is for the contact us. So I'm gonna name this. So if I save this and preview in the browser, as you can see, we have this page, and if I scroll this, drag this like here, and if I click this, as you can see, we have nothing. That's because I haven't included the ID. We have this ID of navbar collapse. So I'm gonna copy this and let Bootstrap know which ID are we talking about, so that it can take that content from that ID. So I'm gonna save this, preview in the browser. And if I click this, I must have made a mistake again. So if I go inside the button section, as you can see, I have made a little typo called passe, which is in fact collapse. So if I save this again and preview in the browser, refresh this, click this, as you can see, now we have a feedback, gallery, features, fact, and contact. So this data toggle, it allows you to collapse and make that effect happen. We have our data target. We have this ID. So this ID tells what content we have to take. So for example, we have so many lists inside a page, and so we can put several other IDs. So we can tell the navbar which from which ID you have to take the list and show inside that navbar. So these are data target and data toggle. These are important classes you have to learn. It's all about classes inside Bootstrap. Okay, so after this, if I go to my website, as you can see, I have nothing included. Now I'm gonna include a little header, or must say a jumbotron. A jumbotron is a new thing inside Bootstrap, and we have discussed that inside our Bootstrap Essential tutorial. So I'm gonna go to my Sublime Text, and after the end navbar, I'm gonna create a jumbotron. If you don't know what jumbotron is simply a header-based style that you can add to your website. I'm gonna show you what I mean. Jumbotron, and I'm gonna create a div with a class of jumbotron. I'm gonna end jumbotron here so that it is easy for us to navigate. Jumbotron, and inside the jumbotron I'm gonna create another div with a class of container, and I'm gonna put again everything that I create inside this container. So inside this container I'm gonna add a heading and paragraph. So h1, let's say wired wiki app, close the h1 tag, and a paragraph tag, and I'm gonna copy a lorem ipsum. If you don't know what lorem ipsum is, you can go to Google and type lorem ipsum. Go to this lipsum.com. Click this generate lorem ipsum. You can generate whatever words, bytes, list, paragraph. I'm gonna copy this little text. Go to my text editor and paste it right here. Save this, and if I go to my browser again, so as you can see, this is our jumbotron right here, and this is the paragraph, and this is the text, the heading. I'm gonna align the text to the center. So inside the div class container, I'm gonna add another class of text center. Save this, preview in the browser. As you can see, it is now in the center. I'm gonna cut this a little bit more. Okay, save this. Okay, as you can see, this is the Wired Wiki app and whatever text you want to add. So let me just close the container so that it is easy for us to navigate. After the paragraph, I'm going to create another div, and with a class of btn group. Now what this class do, I'm going to tell you it in a bit. Inside this btn group, I'm going to create 3 buttons with a link, with an anchor tag, so with an reference of nothing, and with a class of btn. This btn class allows you to create a button, and btn large lg, this allows you to create a large button. And then we have btn, let's say we have warning. Okay, so what this warning is, warning allows you to create an orange button. If you have seen our previous tutorial, we have info for sky blue, we have primary for blue, we have default for transparent button, we have danger for red button. So we have warning for the orange one. So I'm gonna let's say download app, close the a tag and close the div tag. Okay, div is already closed. I'm gonna close this and I'm gonna copy this. Okay, so download app, and next we have let's say a visit store. Okay, and next is let's say spread the word. Okay, so if I save this and preview in the browser, as you can see, we have 3 buttons right here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make this transparent, this middle one. So as I've told you earlier, we have warning for the orange, danger for the red, and blue for the primary, info for the sky blue. So for making the transparent button, we have btn default. Okay, so save this, preview in the browser, and as you can see, we have download app, visit store, and spread the word. So these are the links. We can also change the color. For example, info, I'm gonna use info. Info is sky blue. I like sky blue. Okay, so Wired Wiki app, lorem ipsum, whatever. Download, visit the store, and spread the word. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add another button right here to download our app. So if the guy is at the end of this page, and with that link on the nav bar, he can download by clicking on that download link wherever he is, or whatever section he is in. So I'm gonna go to my text editor, and inside this list, as you can see right here, I'm gonna add spacing, and I'm gonna create a reference A with a reference of nothing, and with a class of btn. If you have you must be saying that if I want to create a button, why am I using a reference tag? Because you can also create a button using a button tag, as I have created right here. Well, you are right, we can create a button using a reference tag or a button tag. But if you have seen my previous tutorials on Bootstrap, I have shown you that you can create a reference, you can create a button using a reference as well as a button tag. So I'm going to create a reference tag with a class of button, which allows you to create a button, and then we have btn, and let's make it info sky blue, and we have navbar btn. I'm going to talk about that class later, and we have navbar right. Say, okay, so I'm gonna name this download. Let's say now. Okay, close this. If I save this and go to my browser, refresh, as you can see, we have download now button right here. Okay, so I made a mistake, but it was intentional this time. As you can see, this we have the class. So first class is btn, which allows you to create a button. Okay, then we have btn info, which allows you to create a sky blue button. Then we have navbar btn. As you can see, I have created a little typo. So if I make it correct, navbar btn. Now if I refresh this and go to my browser, as you can see, it is not properly aligned. It is not in the center. And if I refresh this, now it is in the center. So this navbar btn allows you to align that button according to the navbar. So, and then we have navbar right. If I remove this, save this, as you can see, the button appears right after this contact us. So that navbar right, push that button to the right hand side of the navbar. So this info, this sky blue button is not really my type. So I'm gonna change it again to the warning, and orange color is pretty much cooler than the sky blue. Okay, oops. Save this again, preview, and we have our orange color. So, okay, so if I go to our website, so as you can see, this is our Jumbotron, this little grayish background, and we have our things inside our Jumbotron. But we have our, navbar fixed. So if I remove this fixed button, navbar fixed top, if I remove this and save this, go again, and as you can see, that navbar fixed is eating my this much pixel of my jumbotron. So we have to fix it. So I'm gonna add navbar fixed again, so that my navbar is fixed, and no matter where I'm and how I'm scrolling in the website. So I have to fix that padding that the navbar is eating up of my jumbotron. So for doing that, in the head section, I'm gonna create a style. And inside this, I'm gonna add a body and add a little padding of padding top to, let's say, 40 pixel. If I save this and preview in the browser, and as you can see, it is much better than the previous one. Now it has this much padding more than the previous one. So okay, now we have the header, and then we have the these buttons. They have the download button, we have our navbar, we have a logo. Now the next thing is the feedback. So I'm gonna create a feedback now. Okay, so this is our jumbotron right here, and now I'm gonna create my feedback using a div with a class of container. And let me just close this, and container, it's in comment that makes us easy to navigate inside our document. So inside the container, I'm going to create a section tag. It's an HTML tag, of course. Inside this section, I'm going to create a div with a class of page header. Okay, and I'm going to give it an ID of feedback. Okay, so this is the same ID that I have given right here. So whenever you click on this feedback button, it will take you to this section, which is this container, this page header. Okay, so inside this div, I'm going to create a h2 tag feedback. Okay, and I'm going to add a small tag. Check out the awesome feedback. Okay, so let me just close this after this and save this, preview in the browser. And as you can see, we have a feedback, and check out the awesome feedback. And now I'm gonna add little feedbacks. And after this div tag, I'm gonna create another div with a class of row. Let me just add a little comment. Inside the row, I'm going to create another div with 4 columns. Okay, so we have our feedback, and I'm going to provide 3 columns. first column, second column, third column. Now, if you have seen my previous videos, I have told you that our bootstrap blocks is contained of 12 blocks total. So I'm gonna create 3 blocks. So if I divide 12 by 3, we have 4, 4, 4. So I'm gonna create 3 columns with 4 blocks. So div with a class of col lg 4 column large size with 4 blocks. This is a class for creating columns. You can check out my previous tutorial if you don't know about this. And if I close this div tag, inside this I'm going to add a block quote, and inside this I'm going to add a paragraph and a footer. Okay. So for paragraph, I'm going to go to the Lorem website and copy a certain text. Control V, paste this, and inside the footer I'm gonna name the author. I don't know who said this, so I'm gonna add John Doe. Okay, so we have our paragraph inside a block quote. If you don't know about block quote, you can check out the HTML. It's used for creating the block quotes, and inside this I have added a footer with the name of the author. So I'm gonna save this, copy this whole column, and paste it. So we have 3 columns, 4, 4, 4, which add up to 12. I'm gonna save this, preview in the browser, and as you can see, we have our block quotes with the name of the author, and we have our particular section. So now we have our feedback. The block quotes and footer and P. These are all basic HTML. The important part right here is this column LG4. 3 blocks with 4 columns, total added up to 12. You can you can create 2 columns with 6 blocks, or 6 columns with 2 blocks, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. It has to be equals to 12 or less than 12, not more than 12, or it will mess up. So that's the important thing that you have to keep in mind. Okay, so this is our feedback section, and now I'm going to create a gallery after this feedback. Okay, so as you can see, we have our feedback, which is right here that we have created, and now I'm going to talk about gallery. Inside gallery, I'm going to create 2 things. First of all, we have call to action section. In this, I'm going to create an inline form, enter email, enter name, and then subscribe button, and then I'm going to create a gallery, the image slider or carousel. First of all, I'm gonna create a call to action. So and inside this I'm gonna create a section. Inside this I'm gonna create a div with the class of well. If you don't know what well is it gives the little grayish background to your container, to whatever you are adding to this well. So I'm gonna end this well. Inside this, I'm going to create a div with a class of container, and I'm going to put inside a heading and a paragraph inside this container. So I'm going to align those heading and text to the center. So I'm going to add the text center, and close this. Inside this, I'm going to create a h2 tag. Let's say h3, and let's say subscribe. Subscribe for more free stuff, and a paragraph, your name and email. Close the paragraph tag. So if I save this and preview in the browser, as you can see, subscribe for more free stuff, enter your name and email, and this little grayish background you can see inside your container, this is created by using that well class. So now after this, I'm going to create before the container, I'm going to create a form. Those inline forms, if you have seen the previous tutorials, you can see that inline forms are those which are created in a line, enter name, and then enter email, and then a subscribe button in a one line. So those are inline forms, and those are created by using a form, action, and class is form inline. Close the form tag, and inside this I'm going to create a div with a class of form group, and I'm going to put the form inside this. Inside this, I'm going to put a label and an input. If you're not familiar with this, watch out my previous tutorials. So label for equals subscription. Close it, subscribe. Close the label. Input type equals text. Class equals form control. I'm going to give it an ID of subscription for later use, and placeholder, let's place a placeholder, your name. Let me add a space. Save this, preview in the browser, and as you can see we have subscribe and your name. So I'm going to add another one for email. So I'm going to copy this, and form group we have subscription, label for email. I'm going to change this to email and change this to email address, and ID change this to email as well, and enter your email. Okay, so save this, preview in the browser, and as we have your name, email, enter your email, and now I'm gonna add a button to the submit button. For creating a button, I'm gonna simply put a button. I can also put a anchor tag, but I'm gonna create a button with a button tag with a type of submit. Class, let's say we have btn, and btn, let's say we have default. Close this, and let's say subscribe. Close the button tag, save this, preview in the browser, and we have this button right here. You can also change the property, let's say warning. Save this, and when we have this yellow color, so I'm going to change that to a default. You can use whatever you like. Alright, so as you can see, our well starts from here and ends right here. So I'm going to add a little spacing so that this stuff appears in the center. I'm going to simply add a little HR tag. Save this, preview in the browser, and as you can see there is this little gap. So this is a call to action. You can ask your subscribers for name and email and ask them to subscribe. So this was a call to action, and now I'm gonna create a gallery. So as you can see, this is the section of the call to action. Let me just put a comment. For those of you who don't know what call to action is when you want people to act on something like that, for asking information or subscribing or something like that. That called call to action, which requires certain action. So that's it for the call to action, and now I'm going to create the gallery. So let me just put a comment. Okay, so inside the gallery I'm going to create another div with a class of, as usual, container, and I'm going to close the container. And by the way, if you are not placing the container right here, your text, your whatever thing you're using, it will not be aligned. For example, I'm going to show you what I mean. I'm going to create another section inside this, and inside this I'm going to add div header, div with a class of page header. As you can see, I have already added that previously inside this. As you can see, inside the feedback section we have this page header with the ID of feedback. So I'm going to copy this and paste it right here inside our section and change the ID to as you can see, if I scroll up, we have several pages. First one is feedback, we have already created that. Second one is gallery, so I'm going to create this. I'm going to change this to gallery because I'm creating this for a gallery. Make sure to check the spelling. H2 is gallery. Check out the awesome gallery. Okay, So that's it. Now if I save this and preview in the browser, as you can see, we have this gallery. Check out our awesome gallery in the center, as you can see right here. So what I was talking about this container is, if if you are misspelling, or if you're not using the container, for example, let me put another text. If I save this and preview in the browser, and as you can see, it starts from the very beginning, from right here, and it won't be in the centralized inside the container of the bootstrap. So make sure to add whatever you are using inside the container, so that you have a pretty decent content in the centered and all. So I'm going to save this preview in the browser, and yes. And now I'm going to add carousel indicators. What are those? I'm going to show you. If you have seen our previous videos, carousel indicators are those, if you're using those images, slide from 1 to 2, and there are little circular or square kind of indicators which you can click and jump to that particular image. Those are indicators. I'm going to create that. So I'm going to create a div with a class of carousel slide, and give it an ID of screenshot carousel, and data ride equals carousel. I'm going to talk about these classes a little bit after. Let me just complete this, and inside this I'm going to create an ordered list with a class of carousel indicators. So OL, make sure to check the spelling. Carousel, it has to be CAROUSEL. Don't put carousels. It will it will not work. Carousel indicators. Close this, and inside this I'm going to create a list. How many images you are using, and so if you're using 5 images, you have to use 5 indicators. So you have to put 5 indicators inside these li. So I'm going to create an li with a class of actually it is a data target equals, and I'm going to copy this id screen carousel, because it is taking those carousel from this. I'm going to talk about these ID later on. This ID, what this ID do. So and another class is data slide 2 equals, the first one starts from 0 inside the first image. You have to set it to data slide 2 0, and that's it. Close this, close the li tag, and I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to change this to 1 because second image is for 1. It starts from 0 1 2 3. So for third we have 2, and 2, and for fourth we have 3. And I'm going to make the first one active. So class active, so that it starts from that class, that image. So if I save this and preview in the browser, as you can see, we have nothing, because we haven't included any image right now. So I'm gonna include images. Let me just put a comment, so that and carousel. Okay, so after the ordered list, I'm gonna create another div with a class of carousel inner. Make sure to check this carousel spelling. Carousel inner. So whatever image you are including, you have to include in this class carousel inner, and put that class inside a div, of course. So we have carousel inner, and I have 4 images inside the exercise files folder, and inside this I'm going to create a div with a class of item. You have to put an image inside a particular item. So I'm gonna close this, and inside this I'm gonna put my image with a source src, and this template.html, this file is inside my exercise files folder. So you have to put your images inside those folder, whatever folder you're using. So I'm gonna directly so that you can directly source link to those images. If you're using those images inside other folders, so you have to specify that folder as well. So I'm not using any folder, I'm just using that image and this template.html inside the same directory. So I'm just gonna simply put as you can see, if I open my exercise files folder, these are the images that I'm going to use, and this is the template.html. So that's it. I'm gonna first one is highway.jpg, and alt text is, so what this alt text do is, if you are having a slow internet connection, so the image is not able to load, so this alt text appears with the text, whatever image, whatever text you put inside this. So I'm gonna just put text of the image, whatever text. It helps in the SEO as well. If you are search engine optimize, if you know about search engine optimization, it allows you to Google or whatever to scroll through your images, because it's all about text in SEO. So image source is highway.jpg, alt is this. I'm gonna close this, and okay, so I'm gonna copy this, copy and paste it like 4 times. Okay, so oops, all right, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, and this is 4. This one is extra, so I'm gonna delete this. Okay, so another one is a river.jpg, and another one is street.jpg, and another one is painting. So let me check. We have highway, painting, river, and street. Highway, painting, river, and street. Okay. And before previewing it out, I'm gonna add another class of active, because this first has to be active. This was the active one, and we're gonna scroll through from this to the other images. So I'm gonna save this, preview in the browser, and as you can see, this is the highway first one, as these are the styles that I was talking about. So click on this. Oops, it is not working. I think I made a mistake. Let me see. Okay, so here's the mistake. ID, we have to remove this, and we have to include that inside these. So it was a silly mistake, I know, but if I save this, preview in the browser. Okay, so when I click these icons, uh, as you can see, they are going ups and downs, because the dimension of these images are the dimension are not equal. So and by the way, these images are taken from unsplash.com, so you can check it out if you want free images or free copyright free images. You can check unsplash.com/grid, or simply unsplash.com. It's a free website. It's a great website for quality images. Yeah, make sure to check it out. And okay, now I'm going to explain what happens here. Uh, Whenever you specify an ID, the master ID, the parent ID, which is this one, you don't have to include the hash sign. And if you are referring, and when you are indicating that you are importing that ID from a certain part, from certain class, from certain part of the web page, you have to include that sign, that hash sign. So when I corrected that, as you can see, it is working perfectly, and at a certain period of time, it just slides automatically. That's the work of the carousel. So carousel slide, it allows you to create a carousel ID. As you can see, this ID, you can put whatever ID you want. This ID used to create if you want to add certain things, or you can do that by specifying the ID, and the data right is carousel. It's another class for that, and we have ordered list with a class of carousel indicators. As you can see, this is for those indicators that you can see inside right here. And okay, and we have this carousel inner goes with the image. And also there is one more thing. You can also add a little heading and a caption inside every image. So for example, inside this div class, I'm going to add another div with a class of bootstrap. It's all about class. If you can remember class, you can do anything in bootstrap. So div with a class of carousel caption. Okay, so what this class do, it allows you to create to add a caption inside your image. So I'm gonna add h3 tag, let's say. So highway heading, let's say. Close this and add a little paragraph. This is the caption. Close this, and I'm gonna copy this carousel caption and paste it in every image. Okay, and I'm gonna change this to, let's say, river, and we have street. You can say that if I'm creating, WiredWiki app website, why am I, using all these rivers and street image? I'm just portraying, how you can create a website using these methods. I don't have any screenshot. I don't have any WiredWiki app, so unfortunately, I can provide screenshot for that. So I'm using this Mother Nature, painting, heading. So if I save this, go to my browser. As you can see, highway heading, and this is the caption. This is created by using this carousel caption, and whatever you can put, in text, whatever emphasize small text, or EM, or a small text, or H6 to H1 heading, whatever. And one last thing inside this carousel is I'm gonna add little arrows on the left hand side and right hand side, so you can click those arrows instead of these little indicators. So for doing that, to do that, sorry, pardon my grammar, I'm gonna add an anchor tag with a reference of I'm gonna talk about reference later. Inside this, I'm gonna add a class of left carousel control, and the data slide is equals prev, prev. Don't misspell this to previous. It won't work. You have to specify to as prev for previous slide. I'm gonna show what I mean. And inside this reference, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this reference. This is the reference that I'm talking about. Whenever you take a reference of an ID, you put an hash sign. So this is the ID I'm talking about. So I'm gonna put in hash, then the slide screenshot carousel. Whatever ID you have put inside here, you have to put as it is same. So otherwise it won't work. And I'm gonna close this a tag, and inside this I'm gonna add a span with a class of equals, close the span tag. Oops, close the span tag, close the span tag. So inside the class of a span tag, I'm gonna go to getbootstrap.com/components. You can go, or you can just go to your official website and click on this components tab. And as you can see, the first one is the glyph icons. I want the glyph icon of the left arrow. So where is the left arrow? There it is. This is the left arrow. You can use this for the left one and this for the right one, or you can add this backward, or play, or whatever. I'm gonna use this. So I'm gonna save, Control C, and go to this span class. I'm gonna paste this. Okay. So if I and I'm gonna copy this. This was the left one, and I'm gonna paste again. And this one is the right, RIGHT, and data slide to next. And this one is right. Okay. As you can see, if I go to the right one, as you can see, glyph icon, chevron, right. So I think that's it. If I save this and preview in the browser, as you can see, we have the left one and we have the right one. So left, okay. So these are data slides. If I misspell them, and previous, let's make it previous, okay, or US. Save this. If I refresh, and as you can see, they appears, but they won't work because these data slide, they are misspelled. So make sure not to misspell them. For the left one it is previous, and for the right one it is next. Prev, for the left one it is prev, and for the right one it is next. And this is a class for the left carousel control, and this is the ID that is taken from this carousel slide. So if you change the ID, it won't work again. And the left one, the right one. So I think that's it for the carousel. It's working perfectly. If I refresh this, it's working perfectly. Don't worry about these assigns. If as you can see, they are moving up and down. That's because I'm using that certain this street.jpg. This image dimension is not equals to the other one. That's why it's moving up and down. So whenever you are creating an image slideshow or a carousel, you have to put the same dimension, same JPEG files with same dimensions. Otherwise, it will you go up and down, up and down. So I have used it as an example. You can use whatever you like. Okay, so that's it for the carousel. As you can see, if I go to my website and as you can see, this is the fixed top. It is working fine. So we created the feedback, we created the gallery. Now it's time for the feature. So what features that does the Wired Wiki app provides? I'm going to talk about that right now. So okay, so now I'm going to talk about feature section inside our website. So as you can see, this is our gallery, and after that I'm going to create my comment for the feature, and inside this I'm going to create again the div with the class of container, and I'm going to add a section as usual, uh, and inside the section I'm going to add a page header. As you have seen, I have included page header for the gallery and the page header for this feedback as well. So I'm gonna copy this page header and paste this inside my feature section. ID is features. Feature or features. One second. It is features. Make sure to spell it right. And change this. And change this to some of the coolest features of this app. So if I save this and preview in the browser, let me just put a comment. So if I save this and preview in the browser, refresh, and as you can see, features are some of the coolest features of this app. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a text right here inside the container, and on the right hand side I'm gonna put end image. So for the text I'm gonna use 8 blocks, and for the image I'm gonna use 4 blocks. So I'm gonna add this is the header, and after that let me just put some tabs. Div with a class of rows, and inside this I'm gonna create a div with a class of column large with 8 blocks. So inside this let me just put a comment. Okay, so inside this 8 column I'm gonna put my text, and I'm gonna create another div with a class of call lg 4 blocks, and inside this I'm gonna put my image. So 4 blocks for my image and 8 blocks for my text. So total equals to 12, and 12 is the total number of blocks inside Bootstrap. So inside this I'm gonna add a heading of h3. This is the heading, and after that I'm gonna add a paragraph, and I'm gonna go to the Lorem Ipsum website and copy some of the text, paste it right here. Okay, so we have this heading and a paragraph. So if I save this preview in the browser, as you can see, this is the heading and this is the text, and on the right hand side we will have our image inside this div class of text. So if I go to my exercise files folder, which is on my desktop right here, project files, and inside this I have included my three images. I have one first was user phone, smartphone, and another one is iMac. These images are taken from freedigitalphotos.net. Links are given in this links.txt. You can check that out. So I'm going to use these three images: iMac.jpg, smartphone.jpg, and user.jpg. So in this, I'm going to put the image source img src for source, and the first one is iMac.jpg. If you are putting those images inside any folder, you have to specify that folder with a forward slash and whatever the name of the folder is. So I don't have any folder. I am just putting those images simply inside the same directory which I have this template.html. So that's it, and I'm gonna add a class of image responsive. This class make those images responsive, and I'm gonna put an alt text of simply image. Alt text is, as I've said earlier, the image, the text which appears if your internet connection is slow, and it helps you for search engine optimization. Simple as that. So we have our 4 blocks and we have our 8 blocks. If I save this, preview in the browser, as you can see, this is the heading with the text, and this is our image, and total add up to 12 blocks of bootstrap. So as you can see, this is our row right here, and I'm gonna copy this, and this is the heading, this is the text. I'm gonna change the image to let's say second one was smartphone, and the third one was user. If I save this, preview in the browser, as you can see, this is the heading text first image, this is the heading text second, and this is the heading text third image. Okay, so that looks nice, and so as you can see, I have included all these images, and now I'm gonna add another text, kind of like do extra things. I'm gonna show you what I mean. After this col lg, this is the row. After this row, I'm gonna add a little hr for break, and I'm gonna create a div with a class of row for our rows, and close this. Okay, so our content goes inside this row. Our new content, those help blocks or whatever you want to call it. I'm going to show you in a bit what are those. Inside that, I'm going to create a div again with a class of. Okay, so I'm going to give everyone 4 blocks. So call lg 4, close this, and inside this I'm going to create a panel. So div with a class. If you have seen my previous videos, we need a panel class and panel default, and inside this I'm going to create a div with a class of panel body. I know there are a lot of divs, but as I've said earlier, Bootstrap is all about classes. There are so many classes to learn. Okay, so this is our row. Inside our row, we're gonna put 3 panel with 4 blocks. First one is this one. This one, I'm gonna add this. I'm gonna add a comment. End row. Okay, so this is for the row, this is for the panel body, panel default, and this is for the panel body. Inside this, I'm gonna add a heading h4, simply h4, close the heading and add a paragraph, and close the paragraph, and inside heading I'm gonna put let's say again, this is the heading. For your features you can put whatever you want, whatever you're providing. This is the dummy website, so this is the heading, and inside the paragraph I'm just gonna go to my lorem ipsum and copy the text. This one is fine. Copy, paste inside our paragraph. So we have a h4 and we have our paragraph. So okay, I'm gonna control save, and if I copy this, okay, so this is our call default. Oops, as you can see, we have made a little mistake. Actually, this is the end of the row and this is our column. So if I copy this and I'm gonna paste it 3 times, two times to add up to 12. 4 add up to 12. And we have panel default, that's good. Panel body, that's good. This is the heading and same text, okay. So if I save this, preview in the browser, oops, as you can see we have our panel right here. So you can provide additional features that your app or whatever is providing. And also I'm going to add a little span tag with a class of close the span tag. Okay, so inside this span tag, I'm gonna go to get bootstrap official website and go to my component section. Inside this, as you can see, we have our glyph icons. So I'm gonna add a little features. So I'm gonna add these icons instead of images. So let's say what I'm gonna add is let's say first one is this right one, okay one. Save this, copy this. Paste it in the class span class. I'm gonna copy this and paste it after the other one as well. This is the second one and this is the third one, and the next one I'm gonna use is this star one. Actually this is the star, simple. And the last one is last one let's say this, the glyph icon circle. So copy this and paste it in the third one. So control save and preview in the browser. As you can see we have our glyph icon right here. All right. Okay, so if you want to make these inside in the panel inside the center, you can add another property or a class which is called as text center. Text center. If I save this, preview in the browser, as you can see this is in the center now. So I can do that with the others as well. Copy, paste, save this. Alright, so this is the heading, additional features. We have our glyph icons. We can also you can also increase the size of these glyph icons if you want to by creating an external or internal slide sheet and give it a class of glyph icon and font size whatever 5 em 6 em 6 em you want to use. You can check that out. If you don't know what it is, you can check out a video inside our previous series, third video of icons or glyph icons. So that's it. This is the feature section, and after we have the FAQ, frequently asked questions, and contact us form. So that's it for the features, and now I'm going to talk about frequently asked questions. Okay guys, welcome back. So now we have created our if we take a look, as you can see we have feedback, gallery, features, and now we are going to create our FAQ section. So right at the end of the container of features, let me just put the comment. Okay, so inside this, as usual, I'm going to create a div with a class of container, and I'm gonna put everything inside this container. So again I'm gonna put the section. Let me just clear this up. Inside the section I'm gonna create again once again this is a page heading. So where was the last page? This is the page header. As you can see, with the class of page header ID features. I'm gonna copy this inside in the section, and I'm gonna change this to FAQ. I'm gonna write some text like engaging with consumers or customers, whatever. So in this FAQ section, I'm gonna create panels, but those panels will be collapsible. So if you collapse one panel, the other one will appear. If you click the button, it will collapse and stretch. So if you have seen my previous videos and the Bootstrap version, Bootstrap essential tutorial, you have seen that I have created a separate video on collapsible panels, so you can check it out. So for creating those panels, you have to use a class of panel group. I'm gonna create a div again with a class of panel group, and I'm gonna give it an ID of accordion. If accordion is, if you have seen again the previous video, accordion is a vertically stacked items that you can stretch or contract. That's accordion. I'm gonna give it an ID of accordion, and I'm gonna place every panel inside this group. This is a group. I'm gonna close this div, and inside this I'm gonna create a div with a class of, and again, panel default. Again, bootstrap, it's all about classes, remembering classes and all. And inside this I'm gonna create a div with a class of panel heading. There are so many divs, but that's the markup of the bootstrap. And inside again I'm gonna create a class with panel title. Inside this I'm going to put my title of the panel, which is a link. So I'm going to use anchor tag with a reference of nothing, and data toggle equals collapse, and data parent equals accordion. This data parent is this where this is accordion is the data parent of this title. And inside the reference tag, I'm gonna put an ID of let's say collapse 1. Okay, I'm gonna close the anchor tag, and I'm gonna name it let's say question 1, or simply 1. Okay, so this is the title of the panel, this is the title of the first panel, and let me just end panel title. So this was the title. Now I'm going to create the body of the panel, which is again a div with a ID. ID is taken from this. This is the same ID that you have to use. Collapse 1, and class would be panel collapse and collapse. Okay. This is the class for which allows you to collapse the panel in or out. This is the ID, and I'm gonna close this div tag, and inside this I'm gonna put my div with a class of panel body for the body of whatever you want to put. Panel body. Close this div tag, and inside this I'm gonna simply put the paragraph, whatever you want to put. I'm gonna put lorem ipsum text, so I'm just gonna paste it. Let me just put some comment. Okay, so if I save this and preview in the browser, as you can see we have our this right here, as you can see, and if I click this, this appears. So it is not it's only one, and I'm gonna add 2 more. So I'm just gonna copy this. I have to copy from this panel default to right here. As you can see, this is the panel div of the panel group, so you don't have to copy this and copy the whole thing and paste 2 times. So this is the second, this is the first one, this is the second one. Inside this I'm going to change this to 2. Oops. And I'm going to change the ID to 2. Data toggle is collapse, data parent accordion. Okay. And we have text is the same, data ID again 2. Collapse, and everything is fine. Inside the third one I'm gonna change this to 3. Accordion, we have a collapse again 3. Panel collapse, panel body, and question 3. Okay, so whatever question, how many question you want to add, you can add. It's up to you. So if I save this and preview in the browser, as you can see we have question 1, 2, 3, and if I click this it appears, and if I click again it contracts. So you can do this by third. You can do this to the second one. You can add as much text you want. You can add as much questions as you want. It's up to you. And one more thing, if you want to make this first one active, and by active we means that whenever the guy scrolls down, the question one will appear like this. Instead of the contract version, it will appear with the question and the answer. So for doing that, you can add a class of in, simple in. So inside this collapse in, panel collapse space in, simple. So this was the first one, and I'm gonna save this, preview in the browser, refresh, and as you can see, this is expanded by default. Whenever you do that, you can do that to any of the panel, but the proper way is to contact the first one rather than the second or the third or whatever. So that's the FAQ. You can add as much as question as you want. So the last thing we have is our contact section. So we have done our FAQ, and last is the contact section. So I'm gonna contact this inside contact section, and on the left hand side I'm gonna put my address and a phone number, and on the right hand side I'm gonna put enter your name, email, and your website and your message, and little submit form. So okay, so let's get back to our Sublime text. So this was the container of our FAQ, and I'm gonna add a little space, and I'm gonna add a comment saying contact. Okay, and again I'm gonna create a div with a class of a container, and once again let me just put some tab, and inside this container again I'm gonna create a section. Inside a section I'm gonna again put this heading, copy this heading, and put inside this section, change this features, and the last one, the last ID that we gave is the contact. So make sure you don't spell it wrong. We have contact, H2 is contact, simple, contact us, and text is contact us for more, simple. So if I save this, preview in the browser, and as you can see we have a contact us and contact us for more. So I'm gonna add an address and a form. So I'm gonna add a little spacing. Okay, inside this I'm gonna create a row, a whole row of the bootstrap row with the 12 blocks. So div with a class of a row, and inside this row I'm gonna divide these row in two columns. The first one will be 4 blocks, and the second one will be 8 blocks. 8 blocks for the contact one, the form one, and the 4 blocks for the address. So again div with a class of call large 4 blocks. Okay, let me just end the row, and after this I'm gonna create a div with a class of call lg8. Again close this div. Alright, so we have our 8 and we have our 4. 8 plus 4 equals 12, and 12 is the default for the bootstrap blocks. Okay, so inside our 4 block I'm gonna create an address. I'm gonna create a paragraph tag, and I'm gonna write send us the message. Send us the message, our message. I don't know, poor grammar, sorry. Send us a message or contact us from the address below. So close the paragraph tag, and I'm gonna add a little spacing and address tag. I'm gonna put my address inside the address tag, HTML, pure HTML. Inside this, I'm gonna put a strong tag. Close the strong tag. Inside this, wired wiki private limited. and add a little break, and add a little fake address 111. Okay, so as you can see, I have put a little fake address inside this with a little break. So if I save this and preview in the browser, okay, send us message on contact from the bus address below, and then we have Wired Wiki Private Limited little address, and we have phone number. Okay, so as you can see, we have our address with 4 blocks of bootstrap, and now I'm going to create a form inside this called LG 8 blocks. So I'm going to create a class of tag form action, and equals nothing, and class equals form horizontal. So this is the horizontal form. In the previous videos of my bootstrap, I have talked about how to create vertical forms, and now vertically forms or horizontal forms as well, and you can check that out inside this. Let me close this. Inside this, I'm going to create a div with a class of form group, because it is a group of certain labels and inputs. Inside this, I'm going to create a label. So label, enter and close tag, and again, I'm going to create a div with a class. Let me just complete this. 10. Oh, sorry, LG. Then we have 10. Close the div tag. Okay, so what I did right here is, so as you can see, this was our 4 blocks, and this was our 8 blocks. So 8 plus 4 is 12. Now, okay, that was fine. Okay, now as you can see, I have created a form group, and inside my form group, I'm gonna add a little label with 2 blocks, and input, that input in the field in which the user types, with 10 blocks. Now you will say, Lalit, what is going on? You have said that the first one, this one is 8 and this one is 4. They total added up to 12. Now how can I include this 10 blocks inside an input? That's because it is a nested element inside the 8 one. If you have seen my first video inside the bootstrap tutorial, the video on the nested columns, I have shown you that if you nest anything inside a row, for example, this one was the first row, oh sorry, this one was the first column inside a row with 4 blocks, and this is the second column inside the row of 8 columns. So if I create another column inside this, that column will that column will also have its own 12 blocks. So this label will use the 2 blocks, and this label will use the 10 blocks. 10 plus 2, 12. 12 of whole this 8 columns. So if you have seen my nested video, you can know what I mean. So I'm gonna show you what I mean if you're not clear. So for label, we have for user name, and we have class of column lg2, and control label. Okay, that's it. And this one is name. So a label is closed, and I'm just gonna, okay, label is closed, and inside this column lg of 10, I'm gonna put my input. So input with a type of text. This is a text, simple text, and with a class of form control, and an ID of this same ID goes inside here. ID equals this, and of course I'm gonna add a little placeholder equals let's say enter your name. Okay, input is this. This is the div of the input, and this we have the label. Everything looks perfectly fine. If I save this and preview in the browser, as you can see, we have our name and we have our input. This is the label and this is the input. The input takes the 10 blocks and the label takes the 2 block. So if you have seen my nested column, this is the nested column inside this column. And when you nest a column, you have to put put the whole addition of 12 inside whatever column you are using. If you use this let's say a 4, so you have to put 10 plus 2 again. It doesn't matter if you are putting a nested column inside any column with any amount of block. It has to be 12 or less than 12. That is the theory of the nested columns. If you have seen the previous video, that's it. 10 or 2, 10 for the input and 2 for the label. Okay, this one for the name, and let me just put some comment and form group. Okay, so this is our form group. So this was our name, and enter your name. So I'm gonna put one for the email, and then one for the website. If the user have any website, he can enter, and the last one for the message. So this one is the third one. Okay, form group user, and I'm gonna change this to email. Call LG control label this to email, and div class 10. Okay, input type text. Okay, control ID is email, and placeholder enter your email address. So and third one, we have our user URL. Whatever URL, if you're using our website or blog, you can enter that as well. And LG, okay, text form control ID user email, placeholder enter your website, whatever. I'm gonna put if you have any. If you have any. And for the label, I'm gonna put your website. Okay. If you have any, okay, that's cool. Save this. And for the last one, if I save this and preview in the browser, okay, enter your name, enter your email address, your website if you have any, and the last one is for the message. So I'm going to go to my Sublime Text. Again, use a message and call LG2 control label. This is message. Any message, let's say, save this. And inside the message, instead of the input type, I'm gonna add the text area. I'm gonna show you what it does. Text area, and inside this name equals the same user message, sorry, and ID again. We have user message. We have class of form control, and column will be 20, let's say, and rows will be 10. And I'm gonna add a little placeholder of enter your message. So if I save this and preview in the browser, refresh, and as you can see, any message, enter your message, type whatever you want. Okay, so we have our form now, and now I'm gonna create a little button, a little submit button. So as you can see, after this, this is our form group, and this is the last message. After this, I'm gonna create a div with a class of again form group, and inside this I'm going to create again a div with a class of let's say call LG10. I'm going to show you why I'm using 10 for a little button. Let me just put this, and inside this I'm going to create a button with a button tag. Type equals submit, because it's a submit button, and class equals btn, and let's say we have a little bluish color with btn primary, and I'm gonna name it simple submit. Okay, close the button tag. Alright, if I save this and preview in the browser, As you can see, we have the submit button right here, and this primary button allows you to create a blue button. Alright, so as you can see inside this form, it is not aligned properly with the form. So okay, I'm gonna add a little theory. As you can see, I have created this button inside a class of called LG10. Now why I did that? That's because I have to align properly that button with the input. This is the input and I have to align properly with this input, the button. So as you can see inside this form, I have given this label 2 blocks and this input 8 blocks. So if you have seen my previous videos of Bootstrap, I have made a little in the first video, in the latest section of the first video, I have shown you that there is something called as offset. You can add little offset, or in a simple language, a gap to the button, or a column, or whatever you're using, uh, so that you can properly align those things. So as you can see, we have 8 blocks for input and 2 blocks for label. So and this button is created with whole lot of 10 blocks. So I'm gonna subtract those 2 blocks from this submit button so that it properly aligns with these 8 blocks. So and now you can say that why not give them a block of 8. If I save this and preview in the browser, as you can see, it again appear on the right. If I do this with 6 or 4 with 2, it appears from the left hand side. That's the default property. Whatever you type, whether it's paragraph or whatever, it's appear on the left hand side. It's a default thing inside a browser. So I'm gonna change it to 10, and there is a little class of call LG and offset with 2 blocks. So it's gonna add a little gap, or add a little offset of 2 blocks on the left. So 10 minus 2 is 8, and then this is the 8 for the input, and then it will properly align with the input. As you can see, if I refresh this, it properly aligns. So yeah, that's it. As you can see, it is looking good. Now we have our the whole website is almost complete. We have a logo, feedback, gallery, features, FAQ, and contact us. As you can see, if I click those, contact us, FAQ, features, gallery, feedback, and that's all. Okay, guys, so the website is complete now. Now I'm going to talk about footer, and then I'm going to wrap up this video. For footer, I'm going to add a footer with all those, Twitter and Facebook and copyrights and all that stuff. So after this div, as you can see, this is the div of the container. And after this, I'm going to add a little, again, the comment of footer. Inside this, I'm going to add a footer tag. So FOTR, close this. And inside this, I'm going to add a div with a class of container. Okay. So inside the footer, I want 2 things, actually 3 things. First one is the copyright sign. Second one is the Twitter and the Facebook links. And the third one is this is subscribe for more stuff and all that. So I'm going to place this exact thing in the footer as well. So I'm going to go to my Sublime text, and if I scroll back up, that was the call to action. So call to action, this is the call to action. So I'm now gonna include the well is the that grayish background stuff. I'm not gonna include that. I'm just gonna use a simple white background. So I'm gonna copy this from container text center to div container. So copy and paste it inside my container. So as you can see, I have included two containers, so I'm gonna remove simply this one. Okay, so if I save this and preview in the browser, as you can see, this is the subscribe with more button without the bell, and I'm gonna add a little space between this button and this inline form. So I'm gonna add this little HR. Save this, preview in the browser. As you can see, we have a little HR with break. Okay, So I'm gonna add those two Twitter links. So after this form, I'm gonna add a little HR for another break, and after this, I'm going to add two links inside an ordered list. So UL with a class of list in line for creating a list in one line. That's a class for it. So I'm gonna go back, close this, and inside this I'm gonna create a list, simple lists, li with a link. Reference is blank. I'm gonna give reference later, and name it Twitter. Close the A and close the li tag. Simply copy this and paste it 3 times, and I'm gonna put the link. Okay, so I have my links inside my reference and Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. If I save this preview in the browser, so Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube links as well. So as you can see, we have our two HR tags. If I oh yes, there it is. I copied this, so I'm gonna remove this. Oops. And if I save this again, now it's look cool. We have Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Okay. So now I'm gonna add a little copyright sign. So a little paragraph and copyright sign is and copy. This is a special character inside HTML, and that's the code for creating a copyright sign. Copyright at the rate 2014. Close the p tag. Save this preview in the browser. And as you can see, copyright at the rate copyright. I'm gonna add a little space. All right. Okay, copyright at the rate 2014. Okay. So that's it. That's for the footer. We have included the footer. We have included the links. We have the little form. One last thing in this whole website is I'm gonna add a little scroll spy. What scroll spy is, if you scroll down to a particular section, for example, you're scrolling down and now you're in the gallery section. So this gallery tab will be active. So if you scroll down to feature section, this feature section will be active automatically. So that's a scroll spy. You don't have to include anything, install anything on stuff. You just have to go inside the body section of your web page. As you can see, this is the body section, and inside this you have to add data spy equals scroll, and data target, you have to take the target from somewhere. So data target is my navigation bar. So this is my navigation bar, the first one, and I have given it an ID of my nav bar. So whatever ID you have given, just place that same ID with a hash sign. So if I save that and preview in the browser, okay. So if I scroll down, as you can see, I'm in the feedback section, and this is active. Gallery, same goes for the features, same goes for the fact. Okay, so we have a little problem with the frequently asked questions, so I'm gonna have a look. Contact, we have footer, we have FAQ. Okay, so as you can see, I have messed up the ID. I'm gonna change the ID to FAQ again. Or too many typos. If I go back, refresh, as you can see, if I go to features, and now FAQ. Okay, and then we have contact. So that's the scroll spy. That's it. That's it for the video. You can also check responsiveness of your website. That's the whole point of creating the whole responsive website. If I do this, let me just and right click on whatever you're using. If you're using Firefox, inspect element, inspect source, whatever. I'm using Chrome, so I'm gonna right click and click on inspect element, and I'm gonna inspect what element is breaking at what point and all that. All right, so okay, you can do that without inspect element as well, but I'm gonna check the the pixel, what pixel I'm breaking. So as you can see, this is the website, and if I scroll down, it is at the desktop large section, or the desktop device. So if I do this, as you can see now, at this point feedbacks breaks. So this is the medium point, and I don't want this feedback to break at this point. If you know about the breaking points, if you don't know about anything about breakpoints, you have to check out my videos. The first video of the bootstrap essential tutorial I created. In that first video I talked about the breaking points, so you can check that out. So this is the large point, and this is the breaking point for the middle screen, and somewhere around here we have the breaking point from this for the small screen, and so on. Okay, so I don't want this feedback to break at medium screen. Medium screens are tablets and all. So I'm gonna go to my feedback section. Where's feedback? Feedback. Uh, there it is. There it is. This is the feedback section, and inside this, as you can see, I have included the LG or large. So I'm gonna change this LG to medium, which is MD, which makes it for the medium size screen. So if I refresh this, as you can see, at the medium screen, it still appears at at in a column, not in a row. If I This is the medium breakpoint at which it breaks at LG, but now it's still at the MD, and now at the small screen, this is the small screen breakpoint, and at the small screen it breaks into the rows, multiple rows. So that's for the feature. Okay, I want my feature to break at small screen like this. If I scroll down, this call to action is good, and my header is looking good. And if I scroll down a little bit, gallery is good. Okay, gallery is good. And if I scroll down, and okay, so we have our features, and as you can see, I don't want my features to appear at like this. So for features, I'm gonna go to my feature section, where it is gallery. We have features, and inside features I'm gonna change this to small screen. So let me just show you what it does. And we have for the smartphone, I'm gonna do it for the text and the image as well. So if I scroll down, and if I refresh, scroll down a little bit, so as you can see, this was for the large screen, and this is for the small screen. Now it is breaking at the small screen, it is appearing like this, and that's how I want it to be. For example, if you're using a desktop, I'm just gonna remove this inspect element so you can see it properly. Okay, so at the desktop or whatever you are using, laptop, it will appear like this. At the medium screen it will appear like this, and at the small screen it will appear like this. That's the way I want it. This panel that I created for smaller sections, I'm going to change it to small as well. As you can see, if I at the larger section, they are breaking very quickly. At the medium, they break. At the medium break point, they break. So I'm going to add MD to this as well. Let's just add SM. I'm going to break them to a smaller screen, not medium, but smaller. So if you don't know about all these breakpoints, you can check out that video that I talked about earlier. Refresh this, and okay, at the larger we have at larger screen we have like this. At medium we have this, which is cool, and we in the small, which this appears like this. So it is cool, and for the extra small it appears like this. So for extra small screen, it's okay. I don't want that to be in the same column in extra small, but in the small section, in the small device, it has to appear like that. So okay, that's it. The FAQ is good. We have contact us, which is good. Form is looking good, and the footer is looking good as well. So I think that's it. That's it for the video. That's it for this whole creating website using Bootstrap from scratch, and That's it for the video. Thanks for watching, and I hope you watched this video and you are listening to this conclusion. It's around 1 hour. I don't know. So thanks for watching this video. If you like the video, please subscribe and check out my other videos. Check out my channel. Do stuff. Like the video, rate the video, comment on the video. I'll if you have any questions, you can put your questions in comment. I'll try to answer as much as I can. That's it for the video. Thanks for watching. And if you want some other tutorials, some awesome tutorials, you can check out my channel as well. Once again, thank you and have a nice day.